Good morning and welcome to Zen Live. And I'm all pumped up and ready to go with a new Eckhart Tolle quote. I've been writing to Eckhart Tolle quotes for 10 years, I think. I don't know. I can't keep up. But I used to do it on a blog, then I have a page, and now I'm doing it Facebook Live. So every morning, I would turn over a card and kind of like surrender to the quote and let the quote tell me what to write, and there would be an interaction between me and the quote, and I would just write stuff. So this was like the quote is me and I'm the quote. And there's a creative child of this. And that really fits into this quote here. I just realized. So let's start with today's Tolle quote. All these quotes come from the New Earth. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. You are not separate from it, and there is no objective world out there. Every moment, your consciousness creates the world that you inhabit. Now, this is a mind-blowing statement, particularly if you don't just take it as intellectually entertaining. And that's what we usually do with these wisdom teachings. They're intellectual. Now we can chew on it. Tastes like the gum. It's like chewing gum. You don't swallow it. You just, it's got a good flavor. That's a Tolle gum. I like that, yeah. It's almost like that Krishnamurti gum I used to chew. Yes. So we chew these different teachings, and we like the flavor, or we don't, but we don't swallow it. You see, we don't make it ours. We don't swallow it. We don't swallow it. We just chew it because the flavor is good, you see. So let's chew this just a little bit here. Okay, you are the world and the world is you. Now this is a Krishnamurti quote that rings in my ear like the song of Cole Porter, Night and Day, you are the one. Night and day, you're the one. You and the world are one. Night and day, you and the world are one, you see. Beneath the moon, under the sun. So this Tolle quote here basically is the truth of the postmodern world. The modern world began with the Enlightenment, with the discoveries, the empirical discoveries of Galileo, Copernicus, and Descartes, who kind of like formulated the dual world in which the scientific method works. And this method, Newton, all the different great scientific discoveries of the 17th century, 1600s, basically assumed and was based on the idea that the world exists out there as a material place of space and time, and you can observe it with your microscopes or your instruments or just your naked eye. And because you were separate from it, you could discover the laws that made it work, like a machine. You observe the machine and figure out how it works. Most kids love doing this. You take something apart to see how it works. But an artist can't take apart his painting to see how it works. But you can take apart a machine. So this paradigm works great for machines. You can make tremendous machines. Spaceships, air conditioning, everything, Facebook, computers, it's all stuff, machines made because of this view. It's very practical and it works. But it works so good that it became the only view. And it became our common sense. You see, our common sense world now is this modern world view of reality, that the world exists outside of me and I'm in the world. And I can't influence it. So if I'm religious, I ask the boss to influence it. I can't fix it. Ask the boss. He did it. So you get into this, you see. Or, if you don't want to go in the mythic religious view, you ask the scientist to fix it. And in the last of the scientific utopia was the 50s. That was the last decade of the scientific utopia, which believed that by the time, this time right now, we would be like the Jetsons, living in a utopia where everything was just provided by robots, and we would just be like kings. All you have to do is push a button and whatever you want is there, you see. No conflict, no strife. Science do it all. Given enough time, science will know everything. But the flaw in this view is that you are left out. So along comes the postmodern world of quantum physics. Now, quantum physics is a postmodern discovery, revolutionary discovery in science of its own view, of its own paradigm. And so in the subatomic world, so far, it is true that whatever the scientist looks at is determined by the way he looks at it. So if you look at an electron one way through an experiment, it's a wave. If you look at it another way through an experiment, it's a particle. These are incompatible views. Is it a wave or is it a particle located in space and time? So you got the particle, a thing in location, a thing located in space and time, or you got a wave, which is a field. You see, these are incompatible paradigms, and yet they're both one. You don't have two electrons, you have one. But it depends upon what your viewpoint depends on what you see. So this is what Tolle is saying. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. So your intention determines what you see. And then you see it as the world, and then you live in it. And the trance is that you think somebody else created it, or it was just given. You see, the two paradigms that we have, the only choices that we have, or have had, is that either the Big Bang and blind chance created the world and we're in it like this, like just dumb piece of stardust bumping around here, bumper cars, no purpose or meaning, or God created it and you have God's purpose and God's meaning. But both views are kind of like we're just clay created by this invisible potter, you see. And the founding fathers were called deists because they saw the world in terms of a big clock. And God was the clockmaker. He created the clock, wound it up, and then stopped messing with it. So now it was up to man to figure out how the clock worked and design new clocks. So they designed the Constitution, which is like a clock. So this is all breaking up. So this here, I do this here. So Tolle says here, we'll keep pulling him apart like a cotton ball. You are not separate from it. And there is no objective world out there. Every moment your consciousness creates the world that you inhabit. This is like you look into a mirror, and you've been a lot of the old silent routines, the Marx Brothers, a lot of the old black and white movies played on this metaphor of looking in the mirror and having the mirror move when you didn't move. Whoa, what was that? You see. So that's kind of like the effect when you watch a movie, and I forgot when the first movie did this, but or in a play, when you are caught in the belief that the play is external to you, and the actor suddenly turns and points at you, and you say, whoa, that breaks the paradigm. Or if you're watching a movie, and the movie trance, the paradigm is that the movie is separate from you, and suddenly the character in the movie turns and points to you. Whoa, you see. I remember this happening, I guess I was in my late teens, 20s, I don't know, young fella, and I was at a carnival, and I'm standing there in the crowd, you know, and I'm watching these carnival barkers, you know, each one was hawking their little booth, you know, come on in to this booth, you know, and I'm standing there like this, completely separate, completely out, just completely in exile. You see, I was not a part of this scene. I was an observer. I did not exist. I was just observing, like Yahweh, observing the world, you see. And the carnival barker was talking, you know, come on to this, and then he saw me, and I was a little bit away, and he went like that, you know, you, and I remember the shock of suddenly existing in the eyes of the other. It was kind of like you're watching a movie and suddenly the character in the movie turns and sees you, selects you out of the whole world. You see. You talking to me? There's a shock in that paradigm. You see, I'm trying to explain this, the shock of suddenly existing, the shock of existence. And so we're kind of like stuck in that with the trance of the material world, is that I don't exist. I'm kind of like this observer of the world. I'm outside looking through the frosty window at the people having Thanksgiving, and I'm cold outside, you see. The exile from the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, exiled from the inside, from the world, and they're out there looking through the window. Ooh, how do I get back in? It was unity. I was one with the world back then. Now I'm outside of it. You see, now I'm in exile. So this whole idea of being outside of myself, outside of my experience, is a trance created by the materialistic world that we have called the modern world, which has made a lot of good stuff. But it's an evolutionary stage. It's not the end. It's an evolutionary stage in the evolution of consciousness. And we're in the process of evolving out of this now, and it's very confusing. Because both paradigms exist, the modern and the postmodern exist at the same time, like dinosaurs and mammals walking the earth. One's going out and the other's coming in. The dinosaur trance of materialism has run its course because it is now destroying the earth. It's consuming itself. So we have to evolve. We have to drop the paradigm. And so this is kind of like a description of that paradigm. So we're back here, and Buddha called this. Now Buddha's talking 25,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. And he described this self looking in the world as a reflection and believing that the world was separate. It's like you look in a mirror and you see the world. Now you know that the mirror is a reflection of you, but the trance says that it is separate from you. You see, and we believe that trance. And that is you call that the dukkha, suffering. This separation is the cause of our suffering. not the world, but our sense, our trance that we believe we're separate from it. So now the world's always attacking me, and I'm always a victim of the world. Why me? So Tolle is kind of like pushing these, and I'm just, I'm using Tolle because he's tapped into this wisdom teaching, but this wisdom teaching is the same in all these traditions. So he doesn't have a lock on it. It's just he just uses a language that's very compatible with our modern language, you see. And, you ever try reading a Buddhist sutta? They're like, you need an expert just to talk. You need somebody. They need to be interpreted. So with Tolle, we can do the interpreting yourself, you see. It's workable. It's everyday mind, workable stuff. And that's what we're interested in. If this truth isn't workable, if it doesn't do anything to liberate you, it's not worth anything. It has to be applied, and it has to work in order to make you free from the trance, which will turn you into a creative co-creator with the world you live in instead of being created by the world you live in. So anyway, the movement here is to be aware. So the dukkha trance is that you are aware of the world or a situation as separate from it. Now, this breaks down when this begins to break up, kind of like when the TV, there's a storm and it's digital. This paradigm breaks up. We become aware as the situation. I'm one with the situation. And we call that love. You see. But you can't make it happen. You can't make love happen. You can't make awareness as the situation happen. Martin Buber, the Jewish philosopher, really back in the 60s, described this paradigm shift as I, it, and I, thou. So I, it is I separate from the objective world as it, you see. And even I'm an it. I keep talking about this all the time. In the I-it world, which is the trance of materialism, everything's an it. There is no I, except as an it. The subject is separate from the object, like a ghost. So this breaks down. We become aware as a situation. And we experience this all the time, but we don't have a map in which to understand it. You see. When you are just involved in doing something and forget time, and it could be doing a crossword puzzle or quilting or a sports or a fight, whatever, you are aware as the situation. You're not looking at your watch. How long is this going to last? As soon as you look at your watch, you're back in the trance. As soon as a thought comes in and says, oh, I'm really happy now, you're back here. As soon as the thought comes in and says, boy, I sure wish, no, this is the best I've ever done, you're back here. As soon as you start thinking, you're back in the trance. Because the thinker, you see, the thinker lives here. The thinker is separate from the thought. The thinker is separate from the world because he can think about it. So when we slip into the aware as a situation, there's no thinking. You are just the doing. In sports, it's called being in the zone. Or in golf, a hole in one. In other words, you have to stumble into it. You have to fall in it like Alice in Wonderland. You can't make it happen because making it happen is this view here. I make the world happen so I can be happy. You see, that's gaining. That's in time. So here we have time. Here we have timeless. Okay? Timeless means you're not aware of time. You're just doing it. You're just in the moment. You're just doing it, you see. And you can't make that happen. because trying to make it happen throws you back into this view. And this has come out, this teaching, this very simple teaching, you are the world and the world is you, means you are the situation and the situation is you. And I remember in the 60s, a big book came out by Paul Tillich, which was a Protestant theologian, and he talked about God being the ground of being. Wow, the ground of being. Which Swami Muktananda, my guru back in the 70s, would say God dwells within you as you. God dwells within you as the ground of being. You are the world is you. The ground of being is the whole that includes you and the world. The ground of being is the one that has no second, and it includes you and the object that you're looking at, you see. So the ground of being transcends the trance, the dukkha trance, you see. But in the trance, there is no transcendence. Nothing holds you and the world as one. Nothing. There is just separation and suffering, dukkha, pain, toil, sorrow, the wheel of samsara, the endless karma, the endless Groundhog Day, the sense that you're just recycling life, you see. So, even Jesus comes in here. I and the Father are one. It is the same thing as this. You are the world and the world is you. The Father is a metaphor for world. I and the world are one. It's describing a paradigm, a way of being in the world that is not in the trance of separation. But when you read these statements from the trance, they don't make much sense. So they're just intellectual entertainers. Just something that you can quote so you can you be important or be knowledgeable, you see, which is basically just increasing the trance. So, getting back to quantum physics, the particle thing, everything is a thing, a separate thing, is the view of the dukkha trance. The field is the view of I, thou. Everything, one field includes me and the world. One field, but the field, you see, is not perceptible. You can't perceive the one that holds the perceiver. The perceiver can only perceive that which is not the perceiver, which is objects. So the perceiver and the perceived are two. But there is a transcendent whole that holds them both together. And that is the great discovery of the postmodern world in science, is that there is a field that holds the particles together, you see. But you can't see the field because we can only perceive particles. So the ground of being, the I and the Father are one, or God dwells within you and you, or I, thou, all of these are not perceptible by the perceiver. They have to be felt, sensed as presence, a sense of creative presence. Presence is creative. So when you're in a situation or a dilemma where you're in an endless fight with somebody or endless conflict, and you begin to see that it's repeating itself, it's the same pattern, the same field pattern in a new situation, but it's the same old pattern. When you begin to detect or sense that you're repeating yourself, that you're stuck, that you're like a guy in his power. I remember there was a guy in my backyard, and the ground was across the alley, and he had this big, powerful pickup, and the ground was soft and the wheels got stuck. And all he knew was to floor his big V8. Power, man, power. And he just dug himself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper down to the hubcaps, down to the axles, you see. So that was part of the trance. He didn't see the whole situation. He didn't see the whole field. All he saw was, I got the power and I'm going to use it. You see, it worked before. Power my way out of this, you see. Think my way out. So when we find ourselves in a dilemma where no matter what we do is lose-lose, that is the portal to the new paradigm. That dilemma, that double bind of lose-lose, which Trump finds himself in, but I don't want to get in that right now, or the Republican Party. Can't pass it, can't pass the health care, can't not pass it. Spinning my wheels now. I'm just going down, 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 up, down to the axles, you see. Stuck in the trance. But in your personal life, you see, you are the only one that can evolve. The world can't evolve as an it. You can evolve as an I. It's only the I that can evolve. When you look at the world as you are the world and the world is you, you're the only one that can evolve out of this fix. The world can't do it because you're the world. See how this paradigm shifts? You are the world is you. I and the Father are one. God dwells within you as you. That means there is one. You are the one without a second from this transcendent view of the world. And it just takes one instant, one blink, one flashbulb going off for this to click or snap. Zen calls it satori. It's a flash, it's a snap, it's a wow. Oh, I see. That seeing is the one that has no second. You're not seeing something, you are seeing. See the difference? Here, you are seeing something. Here, you are seeing. Awareness as seeing. You are seeing, not you are something that sees. Now, there's nothing wrong with this trance view if the other view is awake at the same time. And we all know what this is. You say, well, you don't understand the whole situation. Are you taking it out of context? You're taking the rock out of the field and making it into something else. So context, we're very aware of context. See, so context is the whole which holds the parts. But every context is also a part of some greater context. You see, it keeps expanding. It's like the rock, the ripples in the pond. You drop a pond. Now, when you drop a rock in the pond, it's a flowing expansion. But if you were to take it with a 16 millimeter, an old film camera, and slow it down, you would see that it was boop, 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 like that. You see. So every whole, every field, every context is contained in a larger context. So we're constantly expanding. You see. And the modern world is a context that has reached the end of the pond, and it's coming back on us now and creating a fragmented pond. We can't see clearly. So this is the indication that we're at a point of evolution, both individually and collectively. The dinosaur is going out, the mammal's coming in. A new understanding is awakening. But at the time now, we're wah. Which one? I don't know. Or two and two, like wall-eyed. One eye seeing the dinosaur, one eye seeing the mammal. So I can be regressive and join the dinosaur club, and the mammals now are the ones I have to make extinct, or we join the mammal club and the dinosaurs need to go. So anyway, we're kind of like in that in-between world. But we need to understand that the force of this evolution, the force of this life is pushing all of us in our individual everyday mind and in our collective mind, you see. So let's end with that. And let this, you are the world and the world is you. So that really, for me, that really is kind of like the, for whom the bell tolls. This tolls for me, and it helps me awaken to the cause of my stress and sorrow, is that I'm not seeing the world as one, I'm seeing it as me being a victim of the world, a victim of conditions, a victim of the situation. The pain, the rub, the hurt, the confusion, the negativity is all a product of this view where I do not see the world as one, while at the same time I'm two. It's not like you don't stop being two. It's just that a higher context, a higher understanding, a higher sense of reality begins to be felt, not perceived, felt. And that feeling melts the trance. The trance of you against the world melts when the unity world, the ground of being, the ground of your being, or the God that dwells within you as you, arouses itself from the sleep. You, your true being, is aroused from the sleep of the dukkha trance. I'm awake. I'm alive. I feel existence as existence. I feel existence as life, my life. All of this is my life. This whole world, you see. And so we'll end with that, you see. You are not separate from it, and there is no objective world out there. It doesn't mean the world doesn't exist. It means that the world that is one exists, but you don't see it. So, okay. Thank you for dropping in, and I'll see you this evening at Martini time.